Welcome back to Thinking Out Loud with Scott and Mark. Today we're going to address ARM and APM because in our previous set of videos we were talking a lot about ARM, but it quickly comes to light that there's this alphabet soup with ARM and APM and observability and AI ops and FinOps and GitOps and DevOps and all these things that have to do with application reliability and efficiency and performance and things like that. So we're just going to try to do a quick session today to talk about the difference between APM and ARM and how they fit together. Scott, how are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good. Let's maybe start with a definition of what each one is, right? What do you think? I'll take a stab at it, right? So what is, we've been talking about it for a couple of sessions now. What is ARM? It's about getting the cost versus performance balance right on an ongoing basis to make sure that you've got the analytics in place to be able to continually optimize your environment, right? So what is that looking at? It's looking at the supply chain of resources and trying to optimize each one along the way. What is APM? APM is, looking at different metrics with respect to response time and stuff like that from an application-centric perspective, right? So I'll lay it up for you from there. So we've got the APM, which is giving me the application-centric view, and the ARM that's giving me the resource view of the whole supply chain. Now, why don't you pick it up and tell me why you think that, well, at least why we're talking about these two together, why you need ARM if you already have APM. I think that's the question of the day, right?
Yeah, the answer is both. I think that as we progress, most IT shops will need both. To use a business example, APM will give you something like my online banking login service is performing at the speed of X, or my shop floor percent yield feed upload service is performing at what speed X, or things like that. So you're going to get pretty specific to the business, and those things are going to complete the picture over there. ARM is going to tell you, APM tends to fall off a little bit when it comes to the underlying network and hardware and cloud and VMs and
virtualization layer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So to have the full picture, you kind of have to have both. And so in our methodology, we talk about everything from the financial spend all the way to the specific memory or CPU, or in the cloud we would have different profiles of machines, things that are memory optimized or things like that. So we're trying to get from the application all the way down to the proper kind of hardware profiling and software and OS and networking and everything to be required for it. So I really don't think it's an either or. I really think most shops are headed towards having both.
Yeah.
But I think that we're in that phase of the IT life cycle where not everybody has ARM or APM even. And so you got to start somewhere. So some people start from the APM side, some people from ARM.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is, from my perspective, is I think APM kind of helps you to weave a path, an application-centric path through your supply chain, right? So that view comes out very readily in the Turbonomic tool, for example. Suddenly I can see, my application call and how it's making its way through all the resource layers, and the impact of those resources as a whole is suddenly introduced into the equation, and all the analytics from that feeds into what you're going to do at each of those layers. So from my perspective, I think it's almost a must, right? So if you're not looking at resources in a vacuum, you're looking at resources as they pertain to your applications, right? These are all feeding these applications. So to have that application view, you almost have to have APM, and those analytics is what's making this whole thing come together.
Yeah, we've been talking about things from the ARM perspective as sort of the root of our conversations. So when you're looking at the ARM, the product that we mainly work with is called Turbonomic, and in that space, the APM becomes a feeder to the ARM. So your APM picture, your ARM picture, this supply chain view is much stronger if you have at the top of it the application knowledge. So we like to see those two. Now, in terms of our clients, if we assume that we're ARM and we're waiting for this data to come to us so that we can optimize this supply chain, our clients will run, Instana or Dynatrace or New Relic or Datadog or what did I forget? App Dynamics. There's a bunch of them. But these are all things that feed application intelligence towards our ARM. So as it stands today, I think we're thinking of ARM, application resource management, as being the kind of the core collection place, and APM as being one of the feeders. There are other videos where we'll talk about APM from the perspective of investigating performance of an application, but that's really for a different video.
Yep.